And welcome back to Groundbreakers to Harvesters. This is Pastor Travis, and I am glad that you would join us. I'm here with Anthony again today. As you can tell, we're wearing the same outfits from the last time we had a chance to talk because we record multiples whenever we can.
I just don't do laundry.
Well, I don't either.
I do tons of laundry.
Because I hear my wife yell at my boys all the time for the copious amounts of laundry that they have. So I'm like, I'll just wear that again tomorrow.
I'm like Steve Jobs, just the same uniform every day and put all that brain power. Tanya and I talked about like becoming minimalist and like these are the 3 outfits we'll wear forever, and then we're both too vain. So
wasn't there some show on Netflix like it was all about only 7 shirts you need. You only need 7 pairs of shoes or something like decluttering whatever. I don't know, whatever. But anyways, all that to say, what we do, Anthony and I get together and we talk about blog posts that he's put out there. He drops them most Fridays. So if you want to, you can either listen to it because he records an audio recording, or you can read it. And then we have a chance to gather together and unpack them a little bit more. So this one that we're going to unpack is about but statements, B-U-T statements, not double T's, just to make sure. So to start off the conversation, Anthony, what years were you in high school, and what was your go-to bands that you really just like, these are the bands that defined you?
Early 2000s. I graduated 2003. So Limp Bizkit, no, that was the popular stuff, and it was so bad. But I grew up listening to a lot of like Southern California, like skate punk,
Sublime.
That's not skate punk, but no, I did not like Sublime at the time.
What a harsh correction! You're like, that's not all it.
That was like the 90s, man.
Yeah, it was. It was.
But now I really like Sublime. I really do enjoy Sublime. No, I mean, you'll like judge me, but punk. I loved like the early Blink-182 stuff, like Dude Ranch. Not their like all of it. So their big record, Enema of the State. I still giggle when I say that name. Came out when I was in like a freshman or something. But no, like Lagwagon, Pennywise,
Lagwagon.
NoFX, like those bands that most people in Texas are like, I never heard of it. I'm like, exactly. They're still.
But those were 90 bands. Like,
yeah, but
I was listening to Lagwagon. I was listening to NoFX back in like early 90s, like 92, 93, 94.
They've been doing it forever.
But now I know exactly that genre.
Yeah.
Heavy Petting Zoo, I thought was a great album by
they're all ridiculous, and they're still making records. So
God bless them
for like the 3 of us that still listen. So it's good. It's good.
I understand. So what was your guilty pleasure then? The album that you would put in, or the CD you'd put in? Album like they would break out the vinyl and the 8-track. The CD you'd throw in that CDs, you really didn't want your friends to know.
I still have my big thing of CDs.
Yeah.
That thing's probably like thousands of dollars of stuff. Thousands. Not then, but now my guilty pleasure is Kelly Clarkson, man, all the way.
What?
Woo! So good. I don't listen to her show or anything, but like that Breakaway record, so good.
Do you like it because it's produced so well and it's just
she's got
mixed?
Pipes, man.
She's got pipes.
Oh, and it's good songwriting, the pop stuff, like so good. I bought tickets to see her in college, and they canceled.
What?
And the girlfriend I had at the time was like, "You are way too upset about this." So sad.
So you tried to play it off like, I'm doing this for my girlfriend?
Oh no, I was like, it wasn't guilt. Like it wasn't guilt. It was like, she's awesome. Like there was an interview I saw with Slayer, and they're like, Kelly Clarkson's awesome. What are you talking about?
That is awesome.
So good.
I feel like you should have a Kelly Clarkson shirt, like a Crystal Gale shirt or something, just to represent on a Sunday morning.
So good.
Lead and worship in a Kelly Clarkson shirt. That'd be fantastic.
Love it.
So if you want to, contact me at info@Known Legacy or at travis@groundbreakerslife.com, and I'll send you the address, and you can mail us a shirt for Anthony to wear. And you've agreed you're going to wear it, right?
The smaller, the better.
So for me, man, I was alternative from the 80s. So I had 3 older sisters. Okay. One was like into soft rock, like Lionel Richie, and I knew right away when I was growing up, like I did not want to listen to that.
No.
Then my second oldest sister, her name is Carrie. She was more like a brother to me. She was always stepping up to my dad and getting in fights with my dad and arguing with my dad. So I'm like, that's the one I want to follow. And she was into alternative through and through, from Sex Pistols to the Smiths to the Violent Femmes. Okay. All of that stuff. And so when I hit junior high and I could identify my people with my music, that was where I went.
Yeah.
and I would get in fights all the time because that's when Beastie Boys were coming out, and the big arguments were like, they used to be punk, but now they're not punk, and they, and then get to college, and probably my guilty pleasure, and it fits right in line with everything, is 311. I love listening to the first three albums by 311.
You're an Omaha boy, aren't you?
Just outside of Omaha. Yeah.
So.
And man, the first three albums, and just how they did percussion and their kind of reggae vibe, and it was way too many Saturday and Friday nights listening to that album from top to bottom.
Have you seen them?
Saw them once, and the girl I was with got a broken nose because she was in the mosh pit, and the band saw it all happen, and so after the show, they invited her, not me, her, back to hang out with them, and so I got to wait outside in the cold for an hour and a half while she got to hang out with the band, and we didn't last after that.
All right.
But she's amazing. In fact, I would almost guarantee we weren't together at that time. We had dated earlier, but that had already broken up. We were just friends.
Yeah.
I can almost guarantee that. So I want the record to be shown. I'm trying to be as honest and forthright with the details.
You had
as
other
possible.
girlfriends before you got married to your wonderful, beautiful wife?
I often looked for value in places that I should not have. But that's another blog post that we'll unpack at some other time. So today we're unpacking butt statements, and the idea of butt statements, and the reason why we started off with music is because we know the great classic song, I like. Well, that went a little bit more operatic than I want. Anyways, we won't even say it. But there's plenty of good butt songs from the 80s and 90s. So anyways, tell us about the blog post. What were you trying to accomplish? Why'd you write it? And we'll start there.
Well, so now I just have the I like big butt song stuck in my head, which has nothing to do with the post at all. But we all have had those conversations, right? The butt statement where it's like, oh, that was so good and thank you so much, but...
Yes.
And you're just like, okay, that just, everything you just said, praising me up to that point does not matter because then the butt statement comes in.
Right.
And we've all done that. We've all experienced it. Like there's a link I have on the post of like, I think it's a therapist or someone that did some research on like how devastating that could be, like, or your kid like, oh, that's so great. You did a good job on this class, but, and you're just like, okay. Yeah. So that's what kind of originated it and just the damage that can have on us. And I'm a just total people pleaser all the time, looking for validation in all the wrong places, hence I'm talking into a microphone and put my heart and feeling and make a living speaking to people.
Because every man our age has a podcast right now. So, why not join
Love me. Why won't you love me? I love you, but so that's kind of where that started from. And I think it's something we can all relate to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny. When I was first in ministry, a guy named Dan Weber, I think was his name. He was a big youth guy at Willow Creek. Okay. And he came in and did a conference for the Texas district, and he had this burnout moment at Willow Creek, and just everything imploded in his life, and he went into like a year of healing. Storms, if you want to hear something about storms, he went through one. It's a great podcast we just did on it, so you can listen to it. Anyways, and he talked about how and this stuck with me because it's so true. Like, you need to be aware of not just the butt statements that others bring to you, but you need to be aware of your own butt statements. Like the idea that like there are fatal flaws that we will naturally gravitate towards.
Yeah.
And it's the butt statement that we have in our own lives. So like, it could be, Travis Harchin is a great pastor, but he listens to 311 music and they cuss, and so he's disqualified now from whatever it is, right? And the reason why I brought it up is I found it interesting because he's like, here's the deal. You better be well aware of whatever that glitch is in your spirit, whatever that hitch is in your life, because Satan is well aware of that, and he will leverage it against you, not when things are going great, but when sometimes when you're hungry, when you're tired, when you're exhausted, whatever it is, he's going to leverage that and try to take you out. So be aware of your butt statement. And then he uses this great story from, I think, 2 Chronicles 25. It's King Uzziah, and the first 15 chapters in King Uzziah's life is like everything is great. The dude's building cisterns. He's going to war. He's winning. He's expanding the kingdom. Blah, blah, blah. Everything's amazing. And then verse 16, the first word you see is but.
Yeah.
Pride led to his downfall. And I think that's the exact same thing you're talking about. So for me, as I read the blog, there was a tension between the but statements that others bring into me that can devastate me, but then a need to be aware of my fatal flaws and how to keep those in check so that they don't lead to my downfall. Yep. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so, like, how do you balance that, and how do you rectify that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we see that, especially anyone in any leadership right now in our culture, church or non-church world, right. The but statements are taking down leaders left and right, and that's a whole nother conversation. But
he was a great musician, but he had a bad post 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I
don't know how the hair bands from the 80s have just slipped under the radar. They're just like, please, God, no.
I think it's because we're all still in shock that they're alive. Like
that they're still here, kicking and screaming.
The whole war on drugs, just say no. I mean, they were the poster children for like, this is why you don't do drugs, right? And now they're all living, kicking, and still successful. You're like, huh.
Huh. And not to make it's the internet, so this just probably got us in trouble. But no,
we were a great podcast, but
so we need to. But at the same time, we need to also be aware of all of us. We have those but statements, right. Of the thing that could take us down. But it can be exhausting trying to cover those but statements, if you will.
Yeah.
Like that's where I see in our culture right now. We're calling out everyone's but statements, but like there's nothing to like heal. There's no forgiveness. There's nothing to help people find actual healing and reconciliation. And where I went in the post was it really came from this passage in the Bible that I've read hundreds of times, if not thousands, and in Romans and Paul, the guy that wrote the book, he says, but God shows his love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And I remember reading it that morning and I said in the post, a punch in the throat, like, oh yeah. It's not after I figured my life out and got everything okay, but while I was still a sinner, while I was still rebelling against a good and holy and gracious and loving God, while I was still whatever.
Flawed and broken, and we still are.
Yeah. So it's like, God's but statements is the only one I want to hear, But God, because before that, Paul's kind of listing just the brokenness of humanity, and it's easy for us. We see this cultural moment of trying to fix humanity.
Right.
And a lot of it doesn't need to be called out, and it's good, but at the same time, like, where do we go with it? So that just hit me hard. But God showed his love for us while we were still sinners. Christ died for us. And that's kind of where I took it of, okay, even while I'm still working on myself, still trying to not let those fatal but statements just take me down.
Right.
I need to go back to this but statement to ground me, to root me, to give me, and that's not saying like, okay, now I can do whatever I want, or I did some really awful things, but God loves me. It's like, yeah, you still might have to suffer the consequences of those things you did. Right.
But I think you're nailing something that we're seeing in our culture. Without forgiveness and without healing, all you have is this judgment, and and this justice, I guess, for lack of a better term, where there's this self-righteousness, like, we got him, we got one more, to prove that he's a horrible person like the rest of us, and we elevated him, and now we are tearing him down. Yeah, good for us. And that's why I think that conversation with Christ is like, yeah, but while he was a sinner and you, Christ died.
Yep.
And that kind of gives hope.
Yeah.
That even when the dam opens and the but statement is on full display for everyone, that we still have this God who looks at us and goes, yeah.
Yeah.
And even though you think you're going to get over it, you're not.
Yeah.
But while you are still a sinner,
yeah,
my grace is sufficient for you.
Yeah.
So,
and it's just a fine line to walk, like, especially in the cultural stuff, like, saying is like, oh, just let everyone off the hook. No, like there's still real consequences, but this eternal bigger purpose, to life, like you're not condemned forever because of the fatal flaw you made, you know, and like you might be listening to this and going like, yeah, but like I've done this,
but you're right.
But I've like, but like do you really know like how messed up I am,
Right.
If people really knew what happened, and that's where like, that's Christ's but statement to you, but I died for you while you were doing those things, and I think that gives me hope to address the broken parts of my life, to not just keep them, because it's like, all right, ultimately I know there's going to be a final healing and everything's going to be made as it should be in my life and in creation. But hearing those words from Paul in Romans that morning just kind of gave me like, okay, I can keep moving forward.
Right.
I can keep moving.
So in essence, we're given a choice as we encounter those but statements. We can either hide them, we can beat ourselves up over them, right? Which I think a lot of us do. We spend tons of energy trying to hide our flaws and hide our but statements, or we just will fall into depression and nihilism because we realize, God, I've been trying to fix this for 20 years and it still is an issue. Or we have the third option, which is given to us by Christ, and we lay it at the foot of the cross, and Christ says, yeah, but even while you're still doing that, I still love you. I loved you enough that I would die for you. So that you no longer have to beat yourself up, and you no longer need to play the hiding game. Like you don't have to hide anymore. I know it. You know it. Now receive the forgiveness. And I think that's where healing begins, and I think that's where real life is often found. And regardless of whatever the culture does and whatever family and friends do, when you are right with God and you're right with God, those things will come and go. The next day, some new person will hit the screen and some new story narrative will take over. But when you know that you're right with God because of Christ and what He's done for you, all those things can come and go, and it's a different place to be. So. Anyways, dude, I appreciate your blogs. I appreciate what you do and how you write them, and they're very good for me and my soul. And it's been a wonder. It's been a true joy to have that a part of my routine. So, as always, go to anthonycelia.com if you're interested in it. You can download them. I think you have. It's almost every Friday. And again, you can read it. You can also listen to it. It's always good.
Subscribe to it. Subscribe to my blog.
Subscribe
make me feel loved and validated.
I believe the comment section are open too. So one of the things that I love is engaging in the comments. So if you got something positive or you got a question or maybe you have a different insights or some different ideas, make sure that you're throwing that out there on the comment section. And I know Anthony checks those from time to time, and we'll get back to you. As always, thank you for checking us out. If you can, give us a review, whatever you want. GroundBreakersLife.com is where you can find most of the podcasts and blogs and videos up and posted. And we appreciate your time. So thank you very much. Thank you, Anthony.
God bless you guys.
Any insights into what's coming up in the next few blog posts, or are you keeping that close to the chest?
I'll find out on Thursday when I write it.
I love it. Hey, God bless you guys, and we'll see you again soon.
Here I am, child. You are mine now. I have something good for you today.